this is 388 pages of just like female rage. Hey guys, it's Youna and I'm back today with a new video. I realize I've been gone for a few weeks and I'm really sorry about that. But today I'm here with a book review and I'm really excited to talk about the book that I have today, and that is Iron Widow by Xiran Jay Zhao. I've had this for the longest time and just like couldn't make time for it. My friend actually bought this for my birthday like last year, and since this month was AAPI month, Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, I decided to pick up this book. I also wanted to shout out that the author, they I believe are from Vancouver, because I just actually found this out when I finished the book, but I saw sort of on the back flap of the author description that they went to a university in Vancouver, so that was just like really nice to hear and just like kind of makes me feel closer to the author, so I wanted to shout that out. And I'm really happy to support a fellow Asian Canadian, or you know, it doesn't even matter if they're Asian Canadian, like I just think it's cool that they went to a university in Vancouver. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. I thought it was cool. I picked this up maybe like a week ago and I finished it so fast. Like I finished it in like 2 days. I just like binged this book. It was so good. To start off, I guess I'll give you a little bit of the synopsis. This book is a little bit hard to explain. Even when I first got the book and I read the synopsis, I was like, what does this even mean? But the book had such good reviews, I was like, okay, like I'm just gonna like trust, you know? So main character, she lives in this world that's sort of inspired by many different Chinese dynasties and modern China as well. And in this world, there's like a war happening, and the war requires these robotic things called chrysalises. They need to be piloted, so they're kind of like war machines, I think, and they require a boy and a girl to pilot these machines. You need that pairing. You have this like psychic link between each other in order to pilot this chrysalis. And this is where the misogyny comes in, is that anytime a boy pilot has to go out and fight, a girl dies. So like the girl partner dies every time that they like basically give their energy to pilot the plane, and then only the guy survives. So these girls are called concubines, and the main character, her older sister basically offers herself up as a concubine, you know, because she's been sort of brainwashed to believe that that's her duty. She goes and then she dies, so the main character basically offers herself up as a pilot concubine in order to go kill that male pilot, which I love. I love a good revenge story. But yes, so it's a little bit confusing, but I feel like the gist of it is just that there's these war machines. They need a guy and a girl. The girl always dies when they give their energy. Basically in this book it's called chi, and they have to give their chi in order to fuel these machines, and the girl basically always dies because she gives up like all of her chi. And then in this world it's just sort of like that's the way it is. The girl has to die, there's no other way. But there's these sort of increasing questions about like, is that really the way it is, or is that just the way it's been structured by men? I really liked the premise of this book once I sort of wrapped my head around it, and I will say, like, I feel like the author kind of took the approach of letting you figure it out as you go along rather than like info dumping on you, which I know some people don't like, so maybe that's a good thing. I actually don't mind info dumping. I like to figure out like what is this world before really like getting into the story. So sort of like the beginning of this book, I was a little bit lost. I was like just trying to like figure out what all these things mean. Like I didn't really know what a chrysalis was until like the midpoint of the book. I was like, oh okay, that's the machine. So maybe that's just me. I think that I would give this book probably a solid 4 stars, and that's like a really good rating for me. I usually will only give a book 5 stars if I feel as if it blew my mind, like blew me out of the water. It was something new and fresh, and then obviously that's so subjective, right? Because something could be totally new and fresh to me, but to someone else they've like seen that many times in other books, right? So for me, this book was 4 stars, and that's a really great rating. I will say, like, this book, I feel like if I had read this when I was younger, I think I would have given it a 5, because there are some really great plot twists in this book and just like surprising directions the plot went in that I was very happy about, because I feel like these days whenever I'm reading books, especially like YA, fantasy, I guess it's also kind of sci-fi, when I'm reading these kinds of books, I'm usually sort of like, my mind is going 100 miles a minute being like, oh, I bet it's gonna go this way, I bet it's gonna go this way. Like I'm like predicting everything, and like a lot of the times I get it right. But with this one, there were a lot of times where I was like, I think it's gonna go this way, and I'm like not so happy about it. But then I like keep reading, and then it actually goes in a direction I'm like, oh, this is cool, this is fresh, this is like something I haven't really seen before, at least me personally. So I give like huge props to this book for going in directions that at least like I didn't see coming, and I really liked them. They were fresh, not sort of like the typical route that a lot of YA fantasy books go towards. I really liked this. I think it's like definitely worth the read. I highly recommend it. I'm just giving it a 4 because for me a 5 is usually like at the end of the book I need to feel like I want to like throw the book across the room in awe/frustration because I need to read the next one, that kind of feeling. So this one, a 4, is a really great rating. It was so good. Something that I love about this book is that it's basically just like, how many pages is this? It's like 388 pages. I will say this is 388 pages of just like female rage at a misogynistic system, which I loved. The main character is incredibly likable in my opinion. She's just completely frustrated and angry, but understandably so. Her situation is intensely horrific. Another thing is that in her society, they like bind up women's feet so that they basically can't grow, so then they grow up crippled. So the main character, she can't walk, which is insane. Like she's like physically limited by these men that are around her. She also has family problems. She has a really abusive and horrible father, and then she goes and volunteers herself as a concubine, which granted she's going in order to get revenge, but also she feels like some type of way about it because she's like, I don't want to be doing this for these men, right, who are basically they're just killing them. So yeah, this is a very angry book, I will say, but in the best way possible, you know? Like in some ways it kind of reminded me of like Katniss Everdeen a little bit, in the sense that how angry the main character is. Like I feel like Katniss was super refreshing in that sense. Like she was sort of like a breakthrough YA character who was actually angry and not just like this fluffy soft character going along with the whims of like the men around her, right? So yeah, it kind of reminded me of Katniss. I will say also, like, I kind of think maybe a reason why I wasn't blown away by this book is because it really reminded me of the Crescent City series in like an interesting way. Like I don't want to say more unless you've read like either of these books. I'm not gonna get into it, but if you have read both of these books, kind of the whole, well, this isn't giving much away, like the energy thing, like in here it's called chi, I forget what it's called in Crescent City, but like the fact that different people have different energy levels, right? That was a huge similarity to me. Yeah, like the energy levels. And I will say like this book was, I don't know, like some of the ideas in this book really reminded me of Crescent City. That's all I'm gonna say. And you'll know if you've read like the 2 Crescent City books out and this one, like you can, I think you will see kind of the similarities, and maybe that's why I wasn't like super shocked or like super amazed by like what happened in this book and how the plot unfolded. Basically there were some similarities there. I'm interested to see if any of you kind of saw them, but you know, don't spoil anything in the comments, but let me know if you see it, you know, if you've read both of these. So I'm giving this 4 stars. I highly recommend. A great book to read for this month, for API month or any month. I'm always happy to support an Asian author and any Asian inspired stories. So I really hope you guys get your hands on this one. It's so good. Now I understand why this book has such great ratings. Yeah, and I just want to end by saying I really love this book. It was a pleasant surprise. I honestly wasn't really, like, I didn't really know what to expect because like one, I didn't really understand the premise. So like when I went into it, it was like very much blank slate. I hadn't heard from anyone else who had read it, like their opinions or anything. So I'm gonna say that it was kind of surprisingly really good, and I'm really glad that I picked this up. I highly recommend it, and I hope that you guys will pick this one up too. It's super good, made me think a lot, and also kind of makes you think about our own society. Like, yes, this is a fantasy world, but there are some things that are not so different, you know? So yeah, I am very intrigued to hear your thoughts on this book. Please pick this book up. I highly recommend, and let me know in the comments if you have read this book. Let me know if you plan on reading it. Also, let me know of any other books you guys have been reading for AAPI month, because the month's not over yet and I'd love to have more recommendations. Plus also, I'm always down to read any books by Asian authors or Asian inspired stories. So yeah, let me know down in the comments, and I hope you liked this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!